In the middle of the night, a man woke up to go to the toilet and suddenly two thieves broke into his house. He was about to call the police when they discovered him. The man said the money was in the plate on the table, but it was all small change. Obviously, he stole the man's watch but accidentally revealed the tattoo on his wrist. At this moment, the man took the opportunity to swing the goldfin stick. He could have taken down the thief but hesitated and did not do it. The child let him go. The wife heard the noise and ran out. She could only beg the thieves to take everything they could as long as everyone was safe and sound. The two thieves cursed and left. His weak actions made his son unable to understand his father. What's wrong with him? Even the police mocked him and sarcastically said that later he should lock the garage in his wife's heart. This made the relationship between husband and wife, which was already not harmonious. Even when sleeping, they had to use pillows to separate them. His name was HCH. He used to be a top CIA agent. When he carried out the assassination mission, he did not obey the order to spare the target's life, got married, had children, so he also decided to retire early and lived a normal life for 20 years. Every day, he went to the company on time to work as an accountant. The boring life eroded the relationship between husband and wife and also eroded all his sharpness until today when two thieves broke into the house. HCH chose to be patient to protect his family but made his son think that his father was a coward. He only had a daughter. The child still loves his father. He doesn't forget to hug him. HCH silently endures everything. He angrily throws away the unfinished breakfast. The neighbor hears that his house was robbed. Luckily the thieves didn't come to our house, otherwise they would know. Kinbai gives his brother-in-law a gun and tells him to protect his sister and niece. HCH takes the gun and conveniently puts it in a cookie box in the refrigerator. H doesn't care. He's just protecting his family in his own way. Locks the door, opens the secret walkie-talkie in the cabinet. The voice of the contact person, who is also retired like him, the contact person, wants to know what happened. HCH says that the robbers were a man and a woman about 30 years old. Moreover, the magazine was empty, even though the family was safe. This incident caused HCH was immersed in infinite sadness. The latent violence inside him was about to explode. That evening when he returned home, his daughter said that her cat bracelet had disappeared. It had been left in the change dish before, so it must have been thieves who had taken away his daughter, who was H's darling. He couldn't stand it anymore, so he went out to the nursing home to find his father. From the box he took out his father's expired identification papers and a stack of cash and a pistol. Seeing his son regain his composure, a light flashed in the old father's eyes. HCH went to each tattoo shop to find the person with the bird tattoo on his wrist. Several shops in a row all said they had never seen him. He continued to ask each person. The owner of this tattoo shop seemed to have a background. The old soldier next to him was even more observant. The owner of the tattoo shop squinted his eyes and realized that the identification papers had expired and the photo on it wasn't HCH. He thought to himself that today he had met a troublemaker, so he raised his steel fist. The two big guys behind him were also itching to attack. HCH calmly took out the cash and said he just wanted to find someone and didn't want to cause trouble. The old soldier saw the card tattoo on his wrist and immediately, respectfully thanked him for serving the country. He was also an old comrade. The old soldier locked the door and closed the iron window. The tattoo shop owner immediately understood that the person in front of them was not someone they could offend. I can help you. I'm leaning on this person. Based on the clues, HCH went to the house. The target of the thieves was a Mexican immigrant couple. HCH didn't say much and directly used the butt of the gun to hit the man on the head, asking them to return the watch and the cat bracelet. The woman hurriedly returned the watch, but they had never really seen the bracelet. HCH was angry. It seemed he had to teach them a lesson. He pushed the man down and loaded the gun. At this moment from the next room came the sound of a child crying. HCH opened the door to see that the couple's child had a congenital disease they went to steal just to cure the child. H immediately put the gun away so as not to make things difficult for the family, but the storm accumulated in his heart. Not knowing where to go, helpless, he could only punch the wall hard. The image changed to the bus because it was the last bus, so there were only 3 passengers on the bus. HCH sadly returned home thinking this fire would never flare up. Unexpectedly, a cross-country vehicle blocked the bus. Then a few drunk drivers got out of the car and got out. They had drunk quite a bit and banged on the car door frantically. The driver was helpless and had to open the door. HCH sat in the last row. In his head, the Song Happy Him. The drunk drivers brought a bottle of wine onto the bus and snatched the book in the hand of a passenger, then stepped on it without mercy. The passenger clearly understood that a dog bites a torn shirt, had to swallow this anger and leave. The drunk drivers still did not let go, continuing to tease the young girl with a childish face. HCH smiled strangely, stood up and walked past them. The girl looked at him with pleading eyes. HCH walked straight through the compartment of the car, took the phone the driver was about to use to call the police, very politely invited the girl to get off the bus, then closed the door, and he himself, "I stayed. I will kill you guys." The big guys laughed out loud. Then the guy with the pigtails attacked first. HCH stood firm and took a punch, then he took 2 more punches. HCH started to attack, he punched back. The Friday guy sneaked up, the drunk drivers fell down one by one. Their accomplices pulled out a knife and suddenly stabbed him. They played dirty, jumped up and attacked the group, so HCH was kicked away, but the drunk drivers weren't much better. Some had bruises on their faces. However, he wrapped the watch around his hand and pulled the knife deep into his flesh. Next was the main scene, attacking the drunk drivers crazily. Seeing that they were about to lose, 4 people joined forces to throw him out of their car. Dian kept on leaking, some broke their noses. HCH stood up and staggered back to the car. He cut the seat belt tied to the girl's arm. He ran down to his car. His face showed a fierce expression as if he wanted to eat them alive. Then they rushed at him and HCH took it all. He fought left and right. He intended to use a gun to sneak attack, but HCH was not at all intimidated. He swung his arm, dropping his weapon. She fell to the ground and started to have difficulty breathing. It seemed like his trachea had been broken. Anyway, their crime wasn't serious enough to warrant death. Used a knife to cut a line in his throat, then inserted a straw to help him breathe. HCH considered himself to have vented all the resentment he had felt for the past 20 years. However, because the drunkard with the broken trachea is the younger brother of the Russian mafia boss Ilya, the doctor said that his younger brother's brain damage is too severe. There is a high chance that he cannot be saved. You immediately became extremely angry, rushed into the next hospital room, without saying a word, and asked him, "What happened tonight?" When he learned that this bunch of useless people were defeated by a single man, he completely did not believe that one person could beat a bunch of people. He knew that his younger brother was very bad, but when blood and flesh are involved, he had to avenge his younger brother. The guy with the pigtail picked up the other man's bus pass. Last night, HCH's mood was much better, but HCH did not explain. The others were even more miserable. Last night, he was very brave, he thought to himself. Does my father have to eat today? Wrong medicine, wrong time. The phone rang. The contact called. You have caused big trouble among the people you beat up last night. There was a person who was Yulian's younger brother. The call lasted more than 30 seconds. Can be tracked. The contact asked HCH to meet the barber. He will tell him who Yulian is. At first HCH didn't pay much attention, still went to work as usual, but all day he was lost in thought. In the afternoon the contact continued to text him, urging him to meet the barber. After meeting him he will thank me. H had to go to a barber shop that is the intelligence hub of secret agents. The barber gave him a stack of documents. The documents showed that Ian was a dangerous person with many resources, suffering from antisocial personality disorder typical of a great evil man. In addition, he also held the mafia's cash flow of hundreds of millions of dollars. It seemed like a good job. This also meant he would have to work hard all his life to look after the money. This giant at the same time Yulian is also investigating the identity of H. The bus card shows that this person is just an ordinary middle-aged man, very ordinary, but ordinary people. How can one fight 6? Yulian asked her to continue investigating. The female assistant has an acquaintance in the Pentagon. The acquaintance received a blackmail letter. The other party asked him to investigate HCH's identity information, otherwise his hot photos will be released, but after entering the name the system showed that he could not log in. He immediately went to the secret archive, finally found the documents about H. However, most of it was covered by a brush pen. Only one word was clearly displayed. The acquaintance sent the documents to the other party. The female assistant, after reading it, was scared, pale in fear, hurriedly packed up and ran away. I don't work anymore, salary no need anymore, good luck. You immediately realized that this person was not ordinary, so he ordered his juniors to take action first and boldly said that they had to capture him alive. In the evening HCH's family was enjoying delicious lasagna when suddenly discovered several cars stopped on the opposite side of Lynn Street. The feeling told him that the enemy was right in front of him, asked his wife not to call the police, then closed the door to fight the assassins. Approaching, HCH cut off the power. The assassins turned on their flashlights and fired a shot into the lock, broke the door and rushed in. It could be seen that they were very professional. However, HCH hid in the corner of the wall and suddenly swung the bat, knocking down two of them. Moving flexibly into the kitchen like a ghost, he killed the enemy with a sharp knife, and finally he skillfully cleaned up the blood. But anyway, he was alone. The assassin used a stun gun to make him faint, then dragged him into the trunk of the car. He saw that his hands were cuffed behind his back. He immediately broke his thumb. After that, he tried to endure the pain and readjust his finger joints. He pushed the cup holder hard and sprayed dry powder all over the car. The car lost control and crashed into a lamppost on the side of the road. He found the key to open the handcuffs and tried his best to run home. Just as he was about to open the basement door, looking at himself in the mirror, he saw his face covered in blood. The moment he opened the basement door, his wife was extremely surprised. He tightly held his wife. With the other hand, his son seemed to not believe that this was his father's work, but the truth was clear before their eyes. Waiting for the right time, he took the family into the car and told them to go out and stay for a few days. But now was not the time. He just begged. His wife trusted him again after everything was resolved. After the family left, he turned on the game console next door. 5 cents were all destroyed. Not only that, as far as HCH knew, Yulian also wanted to get rid of that mess. They can stop fighting. Everyone lives the life they want. River water does not interfere with well water or they will fight to the death. Tonight, he will wait for Yulan to decide outside. However, how can he let others provoke him like that? In the future, what face will he have left? H hugged the mine and calmly walked through the crowd. He sat in the car and waited for news. He silently prayed that Yell would stop. His juniors would have fewer lives. Obviously, his hidden instincts flared up. HCH stepped hard on the gas pedal and turned the car around. They faced Yulian. The two looked at each other with murderous eyes. H successfully lured the enemy to the construction materials company. Yulian fired a bullet from a submachine gun. The bullet went through H's shoulder. The assassin flies out of the window, making a perfect transition, moving and shooting very accurately. The sound of gunshots rings out. HCH fights and retreats into a room that seems to be far away from despair, but in fact, he decisively ignites a chain reaction that is really awesome. Finally, slow motion images combined with melodious background music. This is a romance reserved for men. Only Yell survives. This guy can dominate a region not only because of luck but also because of his notorious cruelty. He almost turns the tables, but he forgets the rule that the villain must die, so he can only hide behind the machine. The situation is hanging by a thread. Finally, he decides to risk his life to win, uses the glass as a shield, and charges straight forward. They could still fight such a beautiful counterattack. Then this life was worth it. HCH let the two of them retreat first while he stayed to clean up the battlefield. FBI took him back for interrogation. The investigator asked him, "Who was it?" In the end, HCH was quiet. Tram a cigarette. He said, "I'm just an ordinary person." At this moment, the two investigators received a phone call. The atmosphere became tense. After half a minute of silence, the investigators hung up one by one. This ordinary person had an extraordinary background. He was not someone they could offend. The movie ended here. The value of a movie lies in its reputation. The value of a movie review lies in its feelings. Today's story ends here. Thank you for watching the movie. What do you think of this movie?